Anita Hayes stretched out on her cream-colored velvet couch, the soft hum of Atlanta city lights filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her. The faint sounds of distant traffic mingled with muted music from a nearby street festival. Her manicured fingers lazily scrolled through her phone, swiping past glittering Instagram posts of lavish lifestyles. Yachts docking in Miami, penthouse parties in New York, and endless snapshots of designer handbags and diamond rings. A slow smile crept across Anita's face as she thought about the plan that consumed her for months. Marry a billionaire. Live off his wealth. Never have to work a day in my life. The thought gave her a sense of power and security she had never felt before. Her gaze drifted to a framed photo on the glass coffee table, a snapshot of her and her younger sister Tanya, taken a few years ago during a family reunion. Tanya's eyes sparkled with determination and hope, while Anita's own smile hid a secret ambition. At 29, Anita was stunning. Her caramel skin glowed under the soft lamplight. Thick raven black hair fell in silky waves past her shoulders, and her smile was disarmingly warm. She'd been told time and again that beauty opened doors, and Anita planned to use every door to her advantage. Growing up in a modest neighborhood in Georgia, Anita had learned early on that life wasn't easy for women like her. Her mother, a hard-working single parent, had always pushed both daughters to pursue education and careers. But Anita had a different idea. Why waste time on college or grinding at a boring job when men with money are willing to take care of you? She had often whispered to herself, and sometimes out loud to her best friend Clara. Clara, with her own glossy black curls and infectious laugh, was Anita's partner in indulgence. Together, they navigated Atlanta's nightlife, always on the lookout for men who could fund their lavish tastes. But there was someone in Anita's mind even more important than any club-goer, Mr. Harrison Benson. A billionaire in his 80s, Benson was the target of her biggest gamble yet. He's old, yes, but rich. Rich enough to set me up for life, Anita thought, her eyes gleaming with calculated excitement. Once I marry him, I won't have to work again. Just a few years more, and then the fortune will be mine. Meanwhile, Tanya was the polar opposite. While Anita dreamed of easy riches, Tanya spent hours sketching fashion designs in her small studio apartment downtown, determined to make a name for herself through her talent and hard work. One humid summer evening, the sisters sat side by side on the front porch of their childhood home, the cicadas buzzing softly around them. Anita, Tanya said softly but firmly, you can't keep relying on this plan. What if it doesn't work? What if Mr. Benson changes his mind? Or worse, what if you lose yourself in process? Anita smirked, tossing her braids over her shoulder with a practiced flair. Tanya, you worry too much. Life's too short to slave away in an office. I'm living my best life now, looking good, enjoying the finer things, and letting rich men handle the rest. Tanya's jaw tightened. And what happens when the money stops? What happens when you're no longer young or beautiful enough to catch their eye? That's when I'll be set, Anita replied confidently. Benson's old. He won't live forever. But the wealth? That'll be mine. Tanya shook her head in frustration, but said nothing more. She loved her sister, but she also feared for her. Later that night, Anita's phone buzzed with a text from Clara. Ready for tonight? Got a new client, loaded and eager. You in? Anita's grin widened as she slipped into her favorite black dress, the one that hugged her curves perfectly. She called Tanya as she applied lipstick. Heading out, she said breezily. Don't wait up. Clara arrived in her sleek red convertible, the engine purring as she pulled up outside Anita's apartment. The city nightlife welcomed them with open arms, neon signs, music thumping, and crowds swirling in an intoxicating mix of glamour and excess. Inside the VIP section of an upscale downtown club, Anita's eyes sparkled under the strobe lights. Men with expensive watches and tailored suits glanced their way, captivated by the pair's effortless charm. Clara nudged Anita, whispering, There's David. Owns a few tech startups downtown. Been sending me gifts all week. Let's go say hi. Anita's pulse quickened. As they approached, David greeted Clara with a warm smile, but immediately turned his gaze toward Anita. Who's this? He asked. This is Anita, Clara introduced. David extended his hand, eyes twinkling. "Pleased to meet you. Anita," you light up the room. Anita felt the familiar thrill of attention and opportunity. That night, laughter flowed, drinks poured, and promises danced in the air. But in her heart, Anita knew this was just the beginning of her journey, the climb toward the life she'd always dreamed of. The next morning, the bright Atlanta sun filtered through the half-open blinds of Anita's bedroom, casting soft lines across the sleek marble floor. Anita stirred awake, the events of the previous night still swirling in her mind like a glittering haze. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the whispered promises, all pieces of the puzzle that would lead her to the life she craved. Her phone buzzed on the bedside table. It was Clara. "David wants to take us both out next weekend. Dubai trip. Are you in?" Anita's heart skipped a beat. Dubai. The word alone conjured images of golden beaches, towering skyscrapers, and luxury that seemed almost unattainable to someone like her. Or so she used to think. "Hell yes," she texted back instantly, a triumphant smile spreading across her lips. Meanwhile, Tanya was far from such dreams. She was at her fashion design studio, surrounded by sketches, swatches, and the hum of a sewing machine. Her brow furrowed as she read a text from Anita. "Can't wait for Dubai, babe. Life's finally turning." Tanya sighed, the weight of reality pressing down. That afternoon, Anita and Clara met at a chic cafe downtown to discuss plans. Clara pulled out her phone, flashing pictures of sleek jets and five-star resorts. "This is just the beginning," Clara said with conviction. "David's into us now. The billionaire circle is opening." Anita nodded, soaking in every word. The path to wealth was clearer than ever. But beneath the surface, a tension simmered. Clara had been the first to catch David's attention. And though she welcomed Anita's friendship, a flicker of jealousy clouded her eyes whenever Anita's name came up in conversation with David. Later that week, they arrived in an exclusive lounge known as the Monarch, a favorite haunt of Atlanta's elite. The air was thick with expensive perfume, laughter, and the low hum of jazz music. Velvet curtains draped the walls, and crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. As Anita and Clara settled into the VIP section, their eyes caught an older man approaching, short, bald, with a cane and a heavy gold watch glinting on his wrist. His slow, deliberate movement spoke of age, but his sharp eyes flickered with curiosity. "Good evening, ladies," he said, his voice deep and gravelly. "May I join you?" Clara smiled politely but glanced nervously at Anita, sensing the man's intentions. "Of course," she replied cautiously. The man introduced himself as Harrison Benson, a retired oil and gas magnate with decades of business success behind him. As he spoke, Clara's discomfort grew, but Anita's mind raced with possibilities. She leaned in, flashing her brightest smile. "Mr. Benson, you seem like someone who truly understands the finer things in life." Benson chuckled softly. "I like your spirit, young lady." Minutes later, Clara's phone buzzed. She shot Anita a glance, a silent plea for help. Anita smoothly took over the conversation, charming Benson with laughter and flattery. When Benson left to join his friends, Clara turned sharply. "What was that? You just swooped in." Anita shrugged, eyes gleaming. "It's business, Clara. He's wealthy, old enough to be your grandfather, and perfect for us." Clara frowned, torn between loyalty and the allure of money. Over the following days, Benson called Clara regularly, but it was Anita who found herself obsessing over the mysterious billionaire. She couldn't shake the thought of the fortune that awaited. One afternoon, while Clara was out, Anita seized the moment. She slipped into Clara's apartment and, unnoticed, grabbed Benson's phone number from Clara's call log. That night, with a pounding heart, Anita dialed the number. Benson's raspy voice on the other end sent a thrill through her. "Hello," he said. "Mr. Benson, this is Anita," she said, voice smooth and inviting. "I thought I'd reach out. I've been thinking about you." Benson laughed softly. "Well, this is a pleasant surprise." From that moment, Anita's game changed. The billionaire was hers to win. The morning sun barely peeked through the thick curtains of the grand master bedroom. When Anita woke up, the soft of the city below blending with the faint rustle of silk sheets. The vastness of the Benson estate was a stark contrast to the cramped apartment she had once called home. Yet, This morning, something deeper stirred within her, a mixture of excitement, anxiety, and a gnawing sense of uncertainty that no amount of luxury could mask. Today was her wedding day, the day she officially became Mrs. Harrison Benson, a name that carried weight and wealth beyond her wildest dreams. The sprawling manor had been meticulously prepared for the ceremony. Delicate white roses adorned every corner. Crystal chandeliers sparkled in every room, and the scent of fresh jasmine mingled with expensive perfumes. As the makeup artist applied the finishing touches, soft rose lips, smoky eyes that seemed to promise mystery and allure, Anita's mind drifted to the journey that had led her here. From those restless nights on the porch with her sister Tanya, the late-night club outings with Clara, to the first hesitant conversations with Mr. Benson in that dimly lit lounge. It felt like a lifetime ago. She stood, now fully dressed in a breathtaking gown, layers of ivory silk and lace, embroidered with tiny pearls that shimmered with each movement. The train stretched behind her like a river of light. Her hair was swept into elegant curls, cascading over one shoulder, and the diamond necklace gifted by Benson rested heavy around her neck. Downstairs, the guests were arriving. Business moguls, socialites, media personalities. Cameras flashed, catching every smile, every whispered conversation. The buzz was electric. The wedding was the social event of the season. Anita took a deep breath and stepped out onto the grand staircase, each step echoing through the marble hall. The room hushed. All eyes were on her. Her heart pounded, not just from nerves, but from the intoxicating realization that this was a life she had fought so hard to reach. At the altar, Harrison Benson waited. Though age had etched lines on his face and slowed his once powerful stride, there was still an undeniable dignity in the way he stood. His silver hair glinted under the crystal lights, and his deep brown eyes met hers with a tenderness that caught her off guard. "I am honored," he whispered as she approached, taking her hand in his. The warmth of his grip was steady, grounding. The ceremony was a blur of vows, music, and applause, but in that moment, Anita's mind was focused on the promise she was making, not just to a man, but to a future paved with gold. In the days that followed, Anita's world transformed into a kaleidoscope of opulence. The sprawling estate became her playground, filled with art collections, manicured gardens, and rooms she barely had time to explore. Every morning greeted her with fresh flowers, exotic fruits, and a wardrobe that rivaled that of Hollywood starlets. Harrison showered her with gifts, gleaming cars that purred like wild beasts, diamond-studded bracelets that glittered in the sun, and evenings spent dining in the finest restaurants across the globe. Yet, beneath the sparkling surface, Anita was acutely aware of the man she had married. Harrison's health was fragile. Some days, he seemed distant, his step slower, a slight tremor in his hand. She found herself watching him closely, memorizing every sigh, every pause. One evening, as the golden light of the setting sun spilled into the drawing room, Harrison took her hand gently, his eyes reflecting both love and a shadow of sorrow. "Anita," he began, voice soft but firm, "there's something I must tell you." Anita's breath caught. She braced herself, heart racing. "When I was your age," he continued, "I was a man who lost everything, my fortune, my family, my purpose. It was a dark time. Then a man introduced me to something, a ritual, he called it, a way to regain wealth beyond imagination, but at a price." Anita leaned in, her eyes wide. "The wealth I have now," he said, "it is bound by time, only 5 years. After that, all I have built will vanish, and so will I." The room seemed to still. Anita's mind raced. The mansions, the jewelry, the promise of a lifetime of luxury, were all shadowed by an unseen clock ticking down. "But we have these years," Harrison said, a faint smile touching his lips, "and they are ours to enjoy." Anita's resolve hardened. This was still her dream, and she would savor every moment. Months passed in a whirlwind of grand balls, gala events, and lavish trips. Paris, Dubai, the Amalfi Coast, each destination a backdrop for the life she had once only dreamed of. Cameras flashed as she descended staircases draped in couture gowns, the world at her feet. Yet, in quiet moments, alone with Harrison, the fragile nature of their happiness whispered like a ghost between them. Anita's thoughts often drifted back to Tanya and Clara. the sister who worked tirelessly, and the friend who had once been her partner in dreams. Their faces sometimes haunted her, reminders of a past she was desperate to leave behind. And through it all, she clung to the hope that the wealth, even if temporary, would be enough to secure her future, for herself and for the son she hoped to have. The Benson estate, once alive with laughter and shimmering crystal chandeliers reflecting golden light, now felt eerily quiet. The halls that had witnessed grand celebrations and whispered promises stood cold and empty. Outside, the towering oaks shed their leaves in the chill autumn breeze, mirroring the slow decay of Anita's once glittering world. Anita sat by the window of the master bedroom, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns of the lace curtains. The sunlight filtered weakly through the glass, casting faint shadows across her face, shadows of worry, regret, and the unspoken fear gnawing at her heart. Harrison Benson, the man who had promised her a life of luxury and ease, was no longer the vibrant titan she had married. His once strong hands now trembled as he clutched his cane. His face, weathered by years, bore the weight of time and illness. Each breath was labored, each movement measured. One cold morning, Anita found him sitting quietly in the garden, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, staring at the pale sky. "Harrison," she whispered softly, sitting beside him, "you should see the doctor again. Please." He turned his tired eyes toward her, a faint smile flickering. "My dear Anita, the doctors have done all they can. The time, it's coming." Her chest tightened, but she forced a steady breath. "We'll get through this together." He nodded slowly, his gaze distant. "There's something else I need to tell you again." Anita's heart skipped. The memory of his earlier confession, the ritual, the wealth bound of 5 fleeting years, surged back with vivid clarity. "The wealth is not ours to keep forever," he said, voice barely audible. "When I made that deal, I thought it was a chance to rebuild, but it's a curse as well." Tears welled in Anita's eyes. "We still have time, Harrison. We'll make it last." But deep down, she feared the inevitable. Weeks passed like fragile glass shattering slowly. The empire Harrison had built began to crumble. Rumors of bankruptcy, closed doors, and lost contracts filled the news. Friends and acquaintances who had once flocked to the Benson name vanished like smoke. Anita watched helplessly as the foundations of her life cracked and fell away. The Rolls-Royce in the garage stood untouched. The designer dresses in her closet hung like ghosts. Social invitations stopped coming. Phones once ringing endlessly now remained silent. Harrison's health deteriorated rapidly. One rainy night, as a storm battered the windows, Anita held his frail hand tightly in the hospital room. "I'm sorry, Anita," he whispered, eyes closing. "I want to give you everything." As dawn broke, Harrison Benson passed away quietly in his sleep, leaving behind a void that echoed through the mansion. But the cruelest blow was yet to come. Almost immediately, Anita was informed that the riches were tied to the ritual, a pact she had not understood until too late. The wealth would dissolve with Harrison's death, disappearing like a mirage. Bank accounts were frozen, property seized, luxury cars repossessed. Every symbol of fortune vanished overnight. Anita, once the dazzling queen of Atlanta's elite, was left with nothing but memories and a heavy heart. With no family to turn to and few friends willing to stand by her, she found herself standing at the doorstep of Clara's modest apartment on a bleak, rainy evening, clutching her young son Ethan close. The door opened slowly. Clara's eyes widened, drinking the sight of Anita, disheveled, weary, and broken. Tears streaming down her face, Anita fell to her knees and begged for help. "I know I was wrong," she sobbed. "I hurt you, Clara, but please, just one chance." Clara's face was stern, hardened by betrayal. "You made your choices. Anita, this is on you." But as her gaze softened upon seeing Ethan's innocent eyes, she finally relented. "Fine," Clara said quietly, "but this is your last chance. No more lies." And so, Anita's journey began. From the depths of despair to her fragile hope of redemption, a chance to rebuild a life stripped bare, but not yet broken. The early morning sunlight streamed softly through the tiny window of Clara's modest apartment, illuminating the worn wooden floor and the faded walls adorned with few framed pictures, reminders of better days. Anita sat in a rickety wooden chair, gently rocking her toddler son Ethan in her lap. His little fingers curled around hers, and his innocent eyes blinked sleepily, oblivious of the storm of emotions swirling within his mother. Anita's gaze lingered on Ethan's cherubic face, the embodiment of hope and the future she desperately wanted to secure. Her heart ached with a fierce resolve. No matter how far she had fallen, she would claw her way back, for Ethan's sake. The apartment smelled faintly of brewed coffee and worn fabric, and from the corner, Clara was busy typing on her laptop, occasionally glancing over at Anita with a look of quiet encouragement. "You're doing better than you think," Clara said softly, folding her arms. "Starting over is never easy, but you're getting there." Anita managed a small smile, though inside she felt restless. The days were a constant juggling act. Morning drop-offs at daycare, long shifts at the local boutique, sleepless nights caring for Ethan. The pay was barely enough to cover rent and groceries, but every honest dollar was a step away from the chaos of her past. Yet, despite the comfort of this new life, a shadow loomed at the edges of her mind, the seductive lure of the old world she had once inhabited. One quiet evening, after putting Ethan to bed, Anita sat scrolling through her phone. Her eyes caught the dazzling images on Instagram. Yachts slicing through turquoise waters, elegantly dressed women sipping champagne in sun-drenched villas, sleek sports cars gleaming beneath city lights. A pang of longing struck her chest. She whispered, "I miss it. The parties, the glamour, the feeling of being wanted." Clara looked up sharply. "Don't let those illusions pull you back, Anita. That life almost destroyed you." Anita's fingers trembled slightly as she locked the phone, but the craving for comfort, ease, and admiration gnawed relentlessly. Days later, the city buzzed with the energy of Friday night as Anita slipped into a sleek black dress and stepped into the neon glow of a downtown club. The bass vibrated through her bones, and the room swirled with laughter, music, and perfume. She moved with practiced confidence, catching the eyes of several men, but her focus was on the VIP section, where the wealthy gathered like moths to a flame. That's when she saw him, Raymond, tall, impeccably dressed, with a mysterious aura that set him apart. His dark sunglasses glinted under the lights, and his smile was warm yet guarded. He approached her with ease, offering smooth, "May I join you?" Anita felt her heartbeat quicken. "Please." They talked long into the night, about travel, art, and fleeting dreams. Raymond was careful not to pry, instead offering comfort and attention. For the first time in months, Anita felt seen, not just as a woman chasing wealth, but as someone worthy of genuine connection. Over the following weeks, their relationship deepened. Lavish dinners replaced quick lunches. Spontaneous weekend trips to secluded resorts replaced tired days at work. Gifts arrived without occasion. Delicate gold bracelets, perfume from Paris, silk scarves that whispered luxury. Anita's world shimmered anew, and with it, old desires stirred. But Clara watched with wary eyes. "Raymond's charm doesn't guarantee safety," she warned one evening as they sat over tea. "Be careful, Anita. That life is full of traps." Anita bristled. "You don't understand. This is different. He treats me like a queen, and I'm not running from anything anymore." Clara's gaze softened, but her concern remained. "I just don't want to see you fall again." Anita nodded, but the pull of the past was strong. She told herself she was smarter now, wiser. This time, she vowed she would hold the reins, not be swept away. Yet, in the quiet moments, doubts crept in. Was Raymond truly the man he seemed? Or was she repeating the same mistakes, drawn by the glitter but blinded to shadows beneath? Each night, as Ethan slept peacefully beside her, Anita wrestled with her past and her future, yearning for security, love, and a life where she was no longer running but truly living. The air was thick with humidity, heavy as the weight pressing on Anita's chest. The glittering cityscape of Atlanta sprawled beneath the towering hotel suite where she sat, fingers trembling as she stared at the small black bag resting ominously on the velvet ottoman. The faint scent of expensive cologne lingered in the room, mixing with the sharp tang of unease twisting inside her. Raymond stood by the window, silhouetted against the fading sunset, his calm voice slicing through the silence. "Anita, this is bigger than anything you've ever imagined. The opportunity will set you free, if you trust me and follow my instructions." She nodded, heart pounding wildly. The words promised salvation, wealth, security, a life where Ethan would never want for anything again. But beneath the glittering surface, a knot of fear tightened in her stomach. The night that followed was a blur of whispered plans and carefully rehearsed lies. Raymond's charm was intoxicating, his smile both comforting and unnerving. The packages, wrapped tightly, filled with powdery contents, were to be carried for him, no questions asked. "Just a favor," he said with a wink. "No risks, no trouble." Anita wanted to believe him. For Ethan, for herself. The next morning, the sterile buzz of airport security shattered her fragile hope. 2 stern officers approached, their faces unreadable as they gestured for her to step aside. The routine scan turned grave when the black bag was opened and the contents revealed. Panic surged through Anita as the realization dawned. "No, it's not mine," she cried, voice cracking. "Raymond gave it to me. I didn't know what it was." But her protest fell on deaf ears. The cold clink of handcuffs echoed in the small interrogation room. The world she'd chased, the life she dreamed of, crumbled with each passing second. Calls were made in haste. Clara arrived at the airport, heart pounding, dread gnawing at her. Seeing Anita behind the glass, her eyes swollen, her hands shaking, shattered the last remnant of hope Clara held for her friend. "What happened?" Clara's voice trembled. "Drugs." An officer replied flatly. "She was caught carrying illegal substances. She claims innocence, but it's her name on the packages." Clara's gaze hardened. "I warned you, Anita." But the words fell hollow against the weight of betrayal. Days turned into weeks as Anita sat behind cold prison walls, the harsh fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the concrete floors. Nights were filled with haunted dreams. Ethan's smiling face, the warm embrace of Clara, the life that slipped through her fingers. Each day was a battle against despair. The whispers of other inmates, the clang of metal doors, and the loneliness pressed in like a suffocating fog. Legal battles dragged on. Raymond had vanished, a ghost that left her to face the storm alone. Evidence was scarce, and the court showed little mercy. Sentenced to several years, Anita's world shrank to the confines of a cell, a far cry from the mansions and luxuries she once owned. In the quiet moments, tears streamed down her face as she whispered prayers for forgiveness and a future she could barely imagine. "I only wanted to give Ethan a better life," she murmured, fingers clutching the worn edges of a faded photograph, a reminder of innocence lost. Her past mistakes lay heavy on her soul, but amid the darkness, a fragile seed of hope began to grow. Maybe, someday, redemption was possible.